5 years ago, the China-Singapore-Chongqing Demonstration Initiative on Strategic Connectivity, also known as the Chongqing Connectivity Initiative, or CCI, came into effect as the third intergovernmental collaboration project between China and Singapore. CCI aims to boost greater connectivity between Chongqing and Singapore, and also between Western China and Southeast Asian countries. Today, we're honored to be joined by the General Manager of the Sino-Singapore Chongqing Connectivity Solution Company, Mr. Gordon Tan. Thanks for accepting this interview with us, Mr. Tan. So
Thank
I
you.
want to ask you a few questions about your company and your general impression of Chongqing's business environment and the forthcoming China's 14th National 5-Year Plan. But first, I heard you are still undergoing isolation in a hotel. So how's everything going there?
Oh, I think it's very good. I think Chongqing probably offers one of the better quarantine hotel for foreigners in China.
How long do you have to stay in the hotel, and when can you come out?
We are on a 14+7 routine here. So after 14 days, we will be allowed to undergo isolation back at our own apartments.
Okay, so could you please give us a brief introduction to your company, the Sino-Singapore Chongqing Connectivity Solution?
Okay. Our company was formed as a joint venture under the auspices of Chongqing Connectivity Initiative, which is like what you said, is the third government-to-government project between Singapore and China. Our role is twofold. Firstly, we are here to promote connectivity between Singapore and Chongqing. What we have developed a product known as the International Land Sea Trade Corridor. So our role in the first part is to promote traders and trade financiers to be able to embrace this product, such that trade between West China and ASEAN can be effectively enabled through this trade corridor. Secondly, we are also involved in the development of a 33-hectare distribution and connectivity center in Liangjiang Guoyuan Yuzui area that aims to bring together global customers to make use of the excellent multimodal distribution capabilities and the transport infrastructure in that area. And we hope to develop an ecosystem or to catalyze the development of ecosystem that can use Chongqing as a redistribution hub into West China. Yeah.
Okay, so SSCCC is a joint venture from both Chongqing and Singapore companies. So I want to know what attracted a Singaporean company to cooperate with the Chongqing counterpart in the first place.
First of all, because it is a government-to-government project, I think the choice of the location is mainly driven by a key factor is driven by the aspirations of both governments. Of course, from the commercial sector, Chongqing's multimodal infrastructure is also second to none. Okay, in the West China, along where it is a key node in the traditional Yangtze River, and we've seen that Chongqing has already taken the lead and has high aspirations to drive connectivity on their own through the China Euro rails. So they are very experienced and hold strong global aspirations to have to connect with hubs in the world. So naturally, when it comes to connecting to Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, the likes of such key hubs in Asia, I think Chongqing is second to none in West China when it comes to global aspirations. Yeah.
So since the establishment of SSCCS, and it has been 3 and maybe 4 years, right? So what kind of obstacles or difficulties have you encountered during the operation?
I think so far, mostly it has been quite smooth. In fact, I think where we are today is kind of beyond the imagination of when we had just started off. So what we ask ourselves in terms of the challenges and obstacles is how do we form a consensus of what's next? Yeah, after having developed the corridor and assuming we have promoted its utilization, how do we ensure that there's a global acceptance, increased global acceptance by traders, by financiers, by logistics service provider? And if were to look back at 5 years ago when we started off um, on this project, it was because we wanted to pilot um, projects or sectors um, uh, that drives the Singapore and China free trade agreements in the services sector. So now that there are new trade agreements like RCEP, the challenges that we think about is how do we tap on the initiative, okay, to foster stronger collaboration between Singapore and West China, such that effectively we can take advantage of the benefits of RCEP. Yeah, and then how can we next move on to commercial projects that support the implementation of RCEP um, and allowed Chongqing to lead West China to take full advantage of RCEP.
So we all know SSCCS is a joint venture company. And are there any kind of preferential policies that are provided to joint venture companies like yours? And what kind of assistance and help have your company received from the local and national government?
Mm, okay, I think when we have received good assistance from the government in terms of enjoying some of the trade-related incentives. We form joint ventures to bring traders into Chongqing, and they have given us assistance in terms of talent development, in terms of trade incentive to do more. So this definitely helps us to promote the use of the international land sea trade corridor. Yeah, and as we develop our this 33-hectare distribution center, I think the government has also played a very significant role in upgrading the public infrastructure. For example, the Yuzhui rail terminal to enable it to handle containers, rail containers, and as well as the surrounding customs and bonded storage facilities. So in terms of public infrastructure to upgrade the ecosystem, the government has done a lot in that aspect.
As you mentioned before, Chongqing is a very strategically important international logistics hub. So how do you position Chongqing's business environment as an inland highland for opening up?
I think first of all, um, Chongqing with its good infrastructure and its geographical advantage, okay, location, I think you have to look at how it can support uh, global companies coming to set up operations in Chongqing. For example, um, in the areas of trade development, we need talents, we need uh, finances, okay, that we need global information. So, in order to present itself as a um, liberal um, open market, I think it should allow more commercial competition and allow for the more be more supportive of talent development in the trade area and as well in the services area. If we are to compare the um, trade percentage to the trade contribution to the GDP of to Chongqing GDP, I think there's still some catch up to do. So I think trade development will be a significant part of what we hope that Chongqing can develop uh, during the course of opening up. Yeah.
So you've been living in Chongqing for 4 years right now, right? So how do you compare Chongqing's to Singapore's business environment? Are there any difference or similarities between?
I think Chongqing and Singapore, we are quite similar we are very similar in understanding the need to be for global connectedness. So we recognize that connectivity, whether is it in the transport area or the data area or the aviation side, we recognize that connectivity is a strong enabler to economic development. So because of this, I think the government services on both sides actually strive to support the industry as much as possible, okay, in delivering these services to the market. So I think that connectivity services is actually a common theme, okay, between both economies. However, the difference, um, key difference lies in the diversity of the supporting industries. So I think in Chongqing, we see that we are quite reliant on um, these automotive and IT industries. And then where else? Singapore, I think we have quite a diverse set of supporting industries. So I think more can be done, okay, in terms of cross learning, in terms of international promotion to widen the economic industrial base of Chongqing. Yeah.
So as you may have noticed, China's National Two Sessions currently generating quite a buzz on both domestic and international media. The 13th National People's Congress opens its annual session today, and China's 14th five-year plan is about to come out. So what do you think foreign invested enterprises to do to take full advantage of the 14th five-year plan?
I think if you look at the global economy, the 14th five-year plan is being released against the background of a global pandemic. And against this background of global pandemic, I would say that China and Singapore probably represents two key um, economies that are more that have managed the pandemic quite well, and also represents a economy that is quite stable. So I think um, the plans of the 14 Fire Plan just reinforce the view that um, operating in China represents a predictable business environment whereby we are not that affected by the pandemic. There's still growth opportunities. Um, there is a good risk management in ensuring that business continuity can can is there, and we can have put in more sustainable efforts to grow the domestic industry. So from that perspective, I think having a strong steer on both the pandemic control as well as predictability in the economic plans, I think is a good comfort for investors.
Another thing I also wanted to ask is the Chengdu-Chongqing economic circle. You know, most people compare, say, Chongqing and Chengdu is twin sister cities. So how do you compare Chongqing and Chengdu's business environment in terms of attracting foreign investments and foreign talents?
I think that in Chengdu there is a stronger participation by the private sector, whereas in Chongqing growth, there's stronger participation by the state-owned enterprises. So from a foreign investor perspective, this economic integration only means opportunity for us to consider this economic circle as an enlarged market. So assuming someone in the services sector, be it an education provider or a supply chain service provider, we will have the opportunity as we witness this integration to see that not only before that we may see that okay, it will be a choice of whether we want to select Chongqing or Chengdu as our beachhead. But now with closer economic integration, we can actually um, plan our strategy based on an integrated market, you know, whereby we know that there will be certainty in terms of the economic policy, administration, even dispute resolution, etc. So that we see that previously it's only the urban core in Chongqing that could be interesting, but now it's enlarged economic circle between Chongqing and Chengdu, covering various parts of Sichuan as well. So as a large market size, it's interesting for us, but there are also overlapping industries between Chengdu and Chongqing that have to be addressed over time, and clearer market positions that have to be developed so that there's no overlaps in which area each end should take care of. Yeah.
What recommendations would you give to the municipal government in terms of attracting more foreign talents to live and work here in the city?
I think for Chongqing to stand out as the hub for West China, and not only as a tourist area, I think there need to be a more global conversations, because from a manufacturer perspective, they see supply chain as regional, from regional perspective, from a global perspective. So if we are to the ability to engage in global conversations, okay, with manufacturers, would then position Chongqing favorably, okay, in terms of having solutions that could meet um, that could meet flows to Europe, to Southeast Asia. I think that is very important, not to just see Chongqing as just relevant to West China, but the capacity to engage investors, manufacturers in global conversations would be very critical in standing out from West China to engage the world and bringing more direct benefits from the rest of the world to West China.
Could you please give us a few examples of the things your company is going to do in the next few years?
I think what is the key part that we will try to do is how do we convince global traders to trade directly with Chongqing and West China instead of going through coastal cities, addressing some of the trade asymmetry. I think having platforms, whether it's digital platforms or really discussion platforms, to bridge that divide in trade information, and also bridge the divide in terms of trade financing products. I think these are the key endeavors that we hope to contribute to the region. And that is on the first part of what we intend to do. And the second part is really to really make good use of our multimodal distribution center at the Guoyan Yuzhui area to really land global customers that can maximize their use of Chongqing ecosystem to distribute into West China, or for West China exporters to consolidate their resources at that point before going global. Yeah.